second. So you were talking about this right brain, left brain thing, because I talk about that every once in a while, and I'm trying to wonder if I know what the fuck I'm talking
All right,
about.
so here's the thing. The world's gone crazy. We wrote a song about it.
Right.
Makes sense.
Right.
So check this out. So I was reading this thing. Actually, I'll have to give credit to. I was in my Bible. I have like a daily thing that I read.
I do too.
And
I do
so
too.
the devotion I had, and it was really crazy because the whole thing is about how people need to be seen. And so the thing is this is pretty amazing. It says our brains are hardwired with two sides to function. You know, the right side, I guess, is the emotional, which is the heart and the feeling, and that processes all the intake of emotion. And the left side is logistics and being logical. But the whole thing is the very first thing that comes in is going to be the emotional stuff. It's the things that we get hit with and we start feeling. And so if you feel despair, or you're just, you know, you're overridden by like all these different emotions, if you don't feel seen, all those things, you start to really build up and you can't ever do it. And that disrupts the entire process of moving from your right to your left brain. So your left brain can never kick in. And so like, you know, all the love and the empathy and all the things that your brain starts to figure out, you just can't get to because it's overwhelmed. And I think with phones and our society and social media and everything else, we're inundated with things and nobody feels seen. Like, you know, like you can like something, but the difference is I think we don't spend time together as people as much. I mean, how many times have you been sitting around a group of people and everybody's, I'm guilty of it, you know?
Oh, I am too, because usually I'm posting for my podcast.
And you're doing stuff, and you know, my wife will be talking to me, and I will not have heard a word she said. So now
I do the same. I feel terrible, but
right.
You know, it's like, honey, what are you talking about?
Right.
You know?
And so, and then you try to answer some like, yeah. And she's like, wow, you would do that? And you're like, what I disagree to. So you don't know that. So the intake of what's going on in our world and people who feel neglected, and the more they feel neglected and the more they look at different things and they're not getting that thing's just filling up and filling up and filling up to a point where they're just beyond angry, upset, sad, depressed. And this is why we have a mental health issue. I think probably the key. If somebody could start saying, you know, people could start realizing, okay, I know I see you as a person. Now we need to, like, you know, sit down, take a breath, meditate, talk to God, talk to somebody. I think if people started doing that, they would start to kind of lower the temperature of the insanity. Then their other side of their brain would kick in and they go, oh, I'm being an idiot. Because I mean, there's so many arguments that I'm watching. You know, when I watch the news, I'm like, none of this makes sense to me.
I know. It's like, I think that people have really lost their freaking mind.
Because the things that they're concerned,
Literally.
what the things they're concerned about and all these things that we see and mass shootings and all the other things that are third rail kind of conversations all stem from a level of insanity or from rage. And where does that rage come from? I think it's just that overflow of emotion that you can't deal with because you can't lower the temperature enough to let your left side of your brain go, all right, wait. Okay. No, okay. Let's start siphoning through this and making sense.
So I've got some questions about this because I know when me and the old lady get in a fight, which is not very often, but when we do, I'm the extreme one here, you know? I mean, I'm more of the emotional part of the relationship.
Well, you're a creative, so I mean, you're going to be.
She's learned to deal with it, but then I know she's the love of my life. So I mean, but it's like, it's tough, man. It's tough, and to go, okay, you know, this is crazy. You know, this is a crazy thing to even say or do or whatever we're doing here. And then I start thinking, I swear to God, I try to think about her tater. And then all of a sudden, I'm like, I'm a little bit better. My left brain goes, this is logically, I want that more.
Yeah.
So I better calm down.
You found a diffusing thing, which a lot of people don't know. I mean, and some people take drugs, and I think that's why they prescribe drugs to people, because maybe it anesthetizes that, but it doesn't make it go away. So I think until we start like really looking at that and be like seriously taking, I think it's kind of because it made so much sense to me. It was like a light went off in my head that, wow, that is why. Because you see people, I just watched some lady screaming at a town council, like she is completely insane. But in her mind, she's not.
Right.
And so, okay, so why? What is missing in her intake in life that is allowing her to get that freaky? So, I
Do
mean,
you think clinical, like a clinical psychiatrist would help her? Do you think that wouldn't be the answer for someone like that, or do they just need to work on themselves?
well, the problem is now most psychiatrists are activists. So you would go in with a legitimate problem, and then they're going to either try to get you on drugs because they make money, or they're going to try to, whatever their agenda of the week is, they're going to push you towards that. So you might end up being told something that's not even truly what your issue is, but because they have some, oh, well, I want you to be this or I want you to be that. So I mean, I think if we didn't have people that were more concerned about agendas, then I think, yeah, going to therapy would be amazing. But if therapy were more of a common sense thing, then
Right. Well, that's the thing. I'm wondering because I'm not kidding either. I think because I've thought some about this because what's helped me is psilocybin.
okay. Well,
But
the
I'm
whole
saying
thing.
that's really helped me a lot. It's gotten me off all the crazy medicine, and it's the reason why I can do the podcast.
Well, it's because the biggest thing, and then with mushrooms, in life too, as we live our lives, we create grooves in our brain, and the grooves in our brain are bad habits and all these things and emotions and reactionary things, and those things get. And one of the things with mushrooms, or some of these other things, is it slowly undoes those grooves, and those grooves then allow you to like kind of recreate your habits to healthier and that's kind of one of the things I think that's a good thing about anything microdosing or anything like that.
Microdosing has done the worlds for me, but I'm saying for me it has.
Yeah.
I mean, but it's calmed me down. It's made me think straight. I don't crave like doing Adderall or anything like that anymore.
And that's Adderall's an evil drug, and
Man, I try to tell somebody else that the other day. Well, me and Scott Wilson was talking about that because he's off Adderall. He says his life is so much better.
Well,
and I'm
yeah.
like, of course it is, man.
No, I've seen one of our guys had a kind of a bout with it and didn't realize it, but he was using it to work, and then all of a sudden one day he was just like another person. I'm like, dude, you can't be this person, and be around. No. And then they kind of came to, but that's kind of when we were starting to talk about mushrooms and I think sometimes used properly, those things are the kind of things that realign you if you use it right. And I mean there is, but that's a mushroom.
They literally work on your receptors, your to get them to where they're firing again, and they help depression.
Yeah.
And I don't ever have any problem sleeping, when I microdose. Now, there was only one time during a session, me and Scotty Austin was working at the old studio at Universal, and I swear, like, I guess I forgot and took 2 hits of microdosing. So me and him always went on a walk in the morning. I turned around and all of a sudden he went, I went, whoa, Scotty, I think I took a little too much this morning. But it didn't last long, you know. It was pretty in and out, but back to the right brain. So you say this is biblical about the way our brain works.
Well, yeah, because God has designed us to have a two-part brain, and one, like, again, one's the emotion, one's the logic, right? So I mean, and of course, the emotion is going to be the first thing that you intake because that's the most aggressive thing, and that's how you deal with things. And then it's so if you don't have the opportunity to filter that through and then get to the next side, then again it builds up and builds up and builds up, and then you become angry. Think about when you can't release an emotion, or if you can't understand why you feel a certain way.